It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag Utah Jazz.
I feel a lot more comfortable out there on the court, just a lot more free, not overthinking as much, I guess. I think that's probably the big thing, is the mental side of it. Feeling the need to look over my shoulder just because, I feel like I'm able to go out there, play hard, and, the rest comes with that.
That's Kyle Filipowski on his development. He's coming off a good game. Can he back it up with another one tonight?
Well, I think it depends if he has the opportunity. But, yeah, I do think he can. To that level, what did he have, 21 and 10, something like that, 20 and 11? But I do think that this kid has skill set that obviously has translated.
Will he get that opportunity? He played the 36 minutes because Walker Kessler was out. Kessler is listed as day-to-day illness, questionable for Wednesday's game with the Kings.
Sneeze on last Friday?
Probably. Yeah, that's probably about right. John Collins is out. Larry Markkinen is out. Colin Sexton is out. Jazz and the Kings tonight. Kings have won 4 of their last 6 and have done the Jazz a favor by taking 2 out of 3. But did lose once to the Pelicans, so there was that. Tip-off set for 7 o'clock tonight. Coverage begins at 6 with the pregame show. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NBA.
O'Neal holds, still holding, looking. Durant's open. He'll run it out to the top. He'll launch a 3 to tie. No good. Zeros on the clock. Streamers from the rafters. The Grizzlies win it in overtime. 151-148.
Which things could get real spicy here throughout this game as Doncic rips another one and immediately turns to the Mavericks bench.
Luka Doncic, he wants to make a statement, and boy, has he here.
Doncic, the ground game. No, fouled on LeBron! What a show LeBron James is putting on in the fourth quarter.
Luka, were you looking for some kind of closure with what happened tonight to allow you to move on? And if so, did you feel like you got that?
I mean, the closure is going to take a while, I think. It's not ideal. But, like I said, I'm glad this game is over. It was a lot of emotions. But we go little by little, and every day is better.
Luka Doncic gets the triple-double, 19 points, 15 boards, and 12 assists. The Lakers beat the Mavericks the first time he gets to face his old team. LA wins 107-99, and LeBron had his 27 and 12. The Lakers are now 14 games over 500. Is there any slowing them down now, PK?
I think that there's a player who can benefit the most from Doncic, and that's Reeves. Because, Anthony Davis was a fine player, and he is a fine player when healthy, no question. But Doncic at the guard line demands so much attention and so much pressure that you have to be able to put on him that frees up a guy like Reeves even more. LeBron's a fine passer too, but him and Davis are more front court guys. And just watching that game last night, I just felt like, and you look at the stats since Doncic has been there, it backs up what we think, or at least what I think anyway. And so, yeah, I think they're an extremely dangerous team.
That is how it looks, isn't it? And it's because it's not that the other guys can't pass, but Doncic is really going to be good at it. So when Reeves is open, he's going to get the ball.
Right, and Davis, he forces a double team, but he's down on the low block. Doncic will force collapse as he's up at the top, and Reeves is a wing guy, obviously. And so just as a spot-up shooter, that's going to create opportunities there for him. And then also he's decent enough driving the ball too. So you look at those 3 guys, that's a pretty good trio right there.
And they had Hachimura give him 15 and 6 last night as well, and they get the win again. The Warriors blew out the Hornets, so no help there for the Utah Jazz. Charlotte loses 128-92. That's some serious losing they're focused on there.
Well, they got guys out.
Yeah.
They got legitimate injuries.
The Pelicans beat the Spurs 109-103. Without a win by Giannis, San Antonio is getting beat a lot. And the Pelicans pick up win number 15, so that's good for the Jazz. And the Hornets are sitting on 14, right?
And the Warriors are really taking off with Jimmy Butler. See if they can be something. It'll be exciting in the playoffs.
Get the Lakers and the Warriors in the mix so people can take them seriously. Golden State up to 8th, the Lakers up to 4th. Warriors are sitting on a 4-game win streak now. Bucks star Giannis Antetokounmpo said he had no hard feelings against the Houston Rockets forward Amin Thompson after Thompson was ejected for his flagrant 2 foul on Giannis last night.
Yeah, it's like it's punching him in the face.
Stay away from the MVP. What are you doing?
I can see why there's an ejection for sure. Yeah, I guess maybe he didn't mean to do it, but man, he was just smacking him in the face 10 times.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag college basketball.
Oklahoma State beats 9th-ranked Iowa State 74-68. Iowa State has been really good when they're full strength. Not so good when they're missing somebody. Their leading scorer came back from illness. Their second leading scorer was out. Curtis Jones, 2 of 9 shooting the ball. So Iowa State loses Oklahoma State.
It says here 2 of 8.
2 of 8. My bad, 2 of 8.
Right there, I'm looking at it right now. Well, I don't know. Who's right?
You were right, 2 of 8.
Well, they're right. I'm not right. I'm just reading stats off the paper here. But yeah, Keyshawn Gilbert was out. But that's college hoop, man. You're on the road, and the kid goes 2 of 8, and he's averaging 17, only has 11. That's why every college game, in conference anyway, can be very dangerous. Now, they got a huge game with Arizona coming up on Saturday, so I don't think it's a crushing blow to them. But it opens up the door, more importantly, for BYU to slide potentially into that top 4 because they're now both sitting on 6 losses, and Iowa State has played one more league game, and so they're 11-6, and BYU's 10-6. So if you get in that top 4, you get the double bye there, and
now you're talking.
Increase your chances of maybe pulling off an upset. I don't think they're going to be able to beat Houston, but who knows? At least get there and have a shot. I think if you finish top 4 in the Big 12, man, no lower than a 6.
That's such a long way up for them, but it's just a different time.
You said that.
Yeah, I know.
Such a long way.
Such a long way up. But, yeah, given who they have to beat between now and then and the boost that gives you.
Yeah, the opportunity's there. I don't know if they're going to do it.
Exactly. But the opportunity's there because of who you'd have to beat along the way.
Yeah.
Utah's at Arizona tonight, 7 o'clock ESPN+. BYU's at Arizona State at 7:30.
Yeah, this is Quintence, their center, 17 years old. And he's projected not this draft but next draft to be a top 10 pick. But Hurley, I was listening yesterday, said that he hasn't practiced. He went off the game on Saturday or Sunday in crutches, and he's had ankle injuries that's caused him to miss games. So if he doesn't play, and they already kicked off their leading scorer, that should be a fairly easy win for the Cougars. And Hurley said, well, we'll see. Yesterday he said we'll see about tomorrow, which is today. So I guess we'll just have to wait.
See what he says later today. BYU's going for win number 20 on the year. Also, it'd be win number 11 in conference, so that'll lock up the winning record, which seems inevitable at this point, but they'll take care of that. Utah State is chasing win number 25 tonight. They are facing Boise State in Idaho, 8:30 tonight on FS1. Scotty G will have the pregame at 8 o'clock. And you hear that game on 1280 The Zone while the Jazz are playing on 97.5 The Zone.
I think Boise's really missed out on something here, man. They could have really cashed in, but they haven't figured it out. There's just absolutely no reason why their court isn't blue.
Should have followed the football field.
Yeah. I mean, they've gotten recognition for the blue turf.
They could go blue from one three-point line to the other?
The whole way.
Ooh.
And then just maybe leave the hardwood in what is known, I call it the key. People call it paint. But
no paint in the paint.
But sometimes there isn't paint in the paint. So it's always the key, but it not is always the paint. That and calling the basket a cup. No, because if I pour myself a cup of something and it's like the basket, it's going to end up on a floor. So it is not a freaking cup. Stop it. Mark Jackson started that, and others, and Locke picked up on it, and I hate Locke for doing that. It's not a cup.
It really isn't. To the cup.
You can't have a cup.
The cup has a bottom in it. The basket doesn't have a bottom in it.
Right.
Ergo, we need a new term.
Yeah.
What about going to the rack?
I'm fine with that. Any form of rim and all that stuff. I'm okay with that. But it's not a cup. But Boise, and also Boise needs revenge, man. Oh, that crazy loss against the Ags in Logan last month. Ooh. So
they're also
opportunity
probably
there.
on the outside looking in for the NCAA tournament, so they need to win. Need multiple wins. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NFL.
It's a skill that our team has because of the players that we have, the way the coaches coach it. The fact that it's a successful play for the Eagles and people want to take that away, I think is a little unfair.
I understand the reaction of the players, but I will say this. Every decision that me and Mooch make is to win, and to win now. So I understand it, but again, listen, this is not going to be the last decision I make, right? That's going to upset some people, and that's okay. Right, but as men, we talk about it. We make sure we keep it in house. That we're going to continue to do.
That's Jets coach Aaron Glenn telling reporters the decision to part ways with quarterback Aaron Rodgers upset some of the players on the roster, most notably Pro Bowl defensive tackle Quinnen Williams. Are they upset that Rodgers is gone, or are they upset that there's no clear QB, and if you don't have a clear QB
Who's
going
they?
in, you're doomed? The players. They that attached to Rodgers?
I don't know.
Or just that they don't have any plan at quarterback right now?
Well, the direction of the Jets for years and years has just been spinning around. And they've been running in circles. They're like that gag that they do when they put two guys out there and they
spin around on the bat, and then they dizzily stagger down the court.
Yeah.
And there go the Jets staggering again.
Right. So, the essence of sports is having hope. Like the Jazz, they're not winning games, but we've got hope that they'll get a great draft pick and they'll make some moves, right? So that's what keeps us going, and we can watch the development. We just talked about Flipper and the development of some of these young guys. That's hope. What hope is there for the Jets? I can't figure it out. I don't know that there is any. So I think that it's not necessarily towards Rodgers singularly. It's more about the big picture frustration, if you will.
Also, your Nick Sirianni there on the tush push. The NFL ponders banning it. The Eagles have used it so well. Sirianni says it'd be a little unfair and a little insulting.
Yeah, I mean, the brutal unfairness on this. It's like you're in kindergarten and somebody gets 2 cookies and the other kid gets 1. That's just brutal.
Chiefs general manager Brett Veach reveals they're planning for star tight end Travis Kelce to play this season, saying the veteran's fired up as he enters the final year of his contract with the franchise.
Is he a star anymore?
No.
Then why'd you say star?
Because he has been a star. I don't expect him to have that major impact on the season coming up. But
Then
his celebrity
former
will
star.
not. His celebrity will not fade, even if his production drops off, which he's 35, turning 36. So
Celebrity, come on, this guy. I mean, are they really is this an eternal marriage here?
with the Kelce and the Chiefs, yes. With Taylor Swift, time will tell.
I mean, it's Hollywood.
Hollywood. The Bengals are hoping to make wide receiver Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL.
So is Jamar Chase.
You're right. The Bengals GM Duke Tobin said Jamar's always been going to be our priority. He's going to end up being the number 1 paid non-QB in the league. We're there. Let's get it done. Well, you're not there, or it would be done. There's some hang-up. Colts general manager Chris Ballard said the team is planning to hold a quarterback battle this offseason with the incumbent Anthony Richardson and a yet-to-be-determined player they will add to the roster. That doesn't sound so good. Got to figure out who that will be. Some random quarterback roaming around out there who's going to be great?
I don't know.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag college football.
The 11 members of the College Football Playoff Management Committee, comprising the 10 FBS Conference Commissioners and Notre Dame AD Pete Bavacqua, did not come to a consensus decision about the future format for the College Football Playoff this season.
Bavacqua?
Yes. Couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. Thank you, Tommy Lasorda. Different Bavacqua. They are considering altering the format to feature straight seeding format instead of the format that rewarded the conference champions with first-round buys.
Okay, well, Bavacqua's a fun name to say for sure. Yeah, what is the Big Ten combined with the SEC? What are they going to concoct that slants the playing field heavily in their favor? And then even that, it's probably only going to be temporary for 5 years after that anyway, and then we'll have some massive change by 2030, 31. I mean, it's going in that direction, and they're going to break off. Get on with it already.
But they aren't. They're going to tweak the playoff seemingly every year. I think right now they're just trying to figure out what to do with next year's, and presumably that could roll into the next contract, but no guarantee.
Do they get
they get
8 bids? They want 4, and they want the guaranteed money because with the situation last year, ASU and Boise got more money because they didn't have to play till the second round, so you get $4 million to get in, $4 million to get to the next round, so they got $8 million. Yeah, so they'll change all that. All right, change it.
And if they get the guaranteed bids, then they can add more games to championship weekend and make more money there too. So it seems like the guaranteed bids are tied to the cash, and they are
right.
coming.
And then they'll eventually form, as you've been talking about, some type of super league, and away we go.
Yep.
I mean, it's clear that's what they're going to do.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag RSL.
Real Salt Lake facing CS Herediano. Winner advances in the Champions Cup to play the LA Galaxy in the next round. Leg 2 is tonight. First kick at 6:30. Coverage begins at 5:30 on 102.7 HD2. Can RSL score a goal? They're home. They've been shut out twice on the road. Got to break through. If they don't, they're out. So, got to break through. Find a way to score. I guess they could play a scoreless game and into scoreless overtime and then win on penalties, but that sounds painful right now. So, break through and score a goal.
Wake me up if that happens.
I will do that. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NHL.
Now Keller, give and go is small. It's a sharp angle shot, just missed on the blocker side. Slap shot, Kesselring hit a man in front. Rebound for Keller. They score! The captain ignites Delta Center, and Utah is on the board. This is Josh Jones. And then finding Lawson Krause, he scores! Lawson Krause off the setup from Josh Jones gives Utah the lead with 7:48 remaining in the third.
And that turns out to be the final scores. The Utah Hockey Club wins 2-1. They beat the Chicago Blackhawks, pick up 2 points in the playoff race. Back-to-back 2-1 wins. Again, a late goal in the third period. Last time it was with 6 minutes left, less than 6 minutes to go against Vancouver. This was with less than 8 minutes to go against Chicago. So that whole storyline we had about not being able to win at home, that is changing here now. They've won 5 of the last 8 and picked up a couple more points along the way. I guess it's 12 points in the 8 games, 5, 1, and 2 in the last 8.
I think your three-game winning streak at home.
Yeah.
This game reminded me of the baseball team that gets 13 hits and wins 3-2. Like, how'd you only get 3 runs with 13 hits? It seemed like statistically they should have dominated more, but in the end it doesn't matter. You won the game. That's really all that matters, particularly now as you're coming down the stretch here. So as I was listening on the radio, as our guy Mike was saying, a win's a win's a win's a win. How many times you go like a win is a win is a win is a win? When do you stop? You carry that out like 5 or 6, or do you got to go? And do you have to go minimum 3?
You have to go minimum 3. I think he's got to be careful about going 5 or 6 because that you would probably save for the last 5 or 6 games, right? As big as the games seem now, they could seem much bigger there with 5 or 6
3,
to go.
It's like blah, blah, blah. You can't just go blah, blah. It has to be minimum 3. Anytime you go blah, 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 you introduce the word blah, which, you run on, blah, blah, blah. But it had blah, blah, blah just naturally has to be 3. You can't go blah, blah. You certainly can't go blah, because you go blah, nobody knows what you're talking about. And 2 sounds a little awkward, but 3 is just the perfect amount. Blah, blah, blah.
Uh-huh.
You have to do it. You'll do it. Next time you go blah, 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 check yourself. You realize
blah, blah, blah.
You go 3
there it is.
times. It has to be done 3 times.
Utah still at home. The Minnesota Wild coming to town tomorrow. Puck drops at 7 o'clock as they will try to beat Wild, who are tied for 4th in the West. Good team.
So tomorrow, this is going to be super crazy. Both winter pro sports teams here at the highest level will be playing Minnesota their next game.
Weird.
I know. It's never happened before. We had what's-his-face, Barrett, get the hat trick. First time in Utah history. This will be the first time that both teams, their next game, will be against Minnesota. Because the Jazz play Minnesota on Friday, do they not?
They do.
Yeah, I mean, that is, oh man, you talk about coinky-dink. That's right there.
What is trending? Brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. There's no job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Tim Lacombe, Jazz analyst for SCG Media, will join us at 8:30 to talk Jazz and talk about BYU. The former Cougar coach will be here at 8:30, and former BYU women's basketball coach, men's assistant, former Utah men's assistant, and former Ute player Jeff Judkins will join us at 9 o'clock.
Ute legend.
There it is.
He's a legend.
The shot doctor will be here at 9:05.
He's a Utah legend. And you forgot former University of Utah women's assistant.
I did.
You left that off the resume.
I did.
You jerk.
It's also a Win Tickets Wednesday. We're going to be giving away tickets to a four-pack of tickets to the Salt Lake Off-Road Expo. We'll be doing that later in the show. DJ and PK, the question of the day, the search for a new coach at the U, coming up next.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
You know something's brewing down in Provo. Utah's having to deal with it because if you're a Utah fan and you're watching what BYU's doing, you're saying, that's what we should be doing. And we're not. How are they getting AJ DeBonsa? How did they get Yegor Demon? How was BYU beating Arizona and Tucson? Utah fan wakes up this morning and BYU's in the top 25. And BYU is good enough to go down to Tucson and score 96 in their house. And if you're a Utah fan today, you see that. You see BYU's getting AJ DeBonsa, and they're getting lottery picks. That used to be you. You used to get the Andre Millers and the Keith Van Horns, and the Jakob Pertles and the DeLon Wrights and the Kyle Kuzmas, and it's not anymore. And you wake up to this headline, you're like, okay, it looks like somebody up there finally gets it. Like, this is not acceptable.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it is time for Hot Takes or Toast. The question of the morning, Utah basketball needs a head coach, and there is strong sentiment to hire Alex Jensen. All in favor. Can we see a show of hands? Michael, Alex Jensen deserves to be a head coach. It doesn't matter where. David, I'm all in favor, but he'd be crazy taking on that dumpster fire. Craig Smith was only partially to blame. The administration was to blame, too.
Yeah, but I think that's part of the negotiations. What will you do for me? What will be the solution to what has ailed the program here in the world of NIL? How do I compete? You have to compete with so many different things. First and foremost, you have to compete with BYU because they're throwing out money like it's candy at Halloween, right?
You will not outbid us.
And so how are you going to be able to overcome that? That's a reality. Then you have to recruit regionally and maybe some national, but this is a different world. And so kids that you would never have thought that you would have even gotten a sniff from now will consider you. Look no further than BYU. They're getting kids that they were never even close to BYU's radar. They hadn't even heard of Lone Peak High, let alone BYU. And so what are you going to do to allow us to compete at a favorable level? That's part of the negotiations, right? And if they really want Alex, then he's dealing from a position of strength. So, ask for the moon. Ask for the sun and settle for the moon, but don't settle for the stars.
What? Don't settle for the stars?
No, not at all.
I thought
you want the brightest light in the sky.
The sun,
That's
the moon, and the stars. You can't have it all.
Well, if you have the sun, you don't need the stars.
Aha.
Because that's such a dominant force of light, much like I am to this show.
Oh. Ryan says Alex is the fastest way to get a fan base excited about basketball again. Pay the man.
Well, it's not about paying him, though, exclusively. Obviously, that's an important aspect of it, but that's not the world in which we live in now. It's pay the players. It's not about pay the man.
You want a little Paul McCartney there. The world in which we live in.
I'm not familiar with that tune. It's obviously not a Beatles tune. I checked out after he left.
He's done. Scott, are you trying to ruin Alex's career? Why would you do that to him? I thought you guys liked him.
I do.
We do like him. I don't know that it would ruin his career. I think the answer to all the questions you're posing there are the key to whether they can win again or not. What's the NIL number going to be? And not only what is it going to be now, where is it going to be in 2 years and 4 years? With the revenue coming in to the $20 million per year, how much of that's going to football? How much of that's going to basketball?
Yeah, that's what all that
has to be
negotiated,
decided,
and
negotiated. Yep.
Yeah. I want Alex. I love Alex. I mean, it was literally 30 years ago this very year that I was working as a beat writer for the Watchdog, and Alex was a freshman. Yeah, so I've kind of known him for a while. And
Tom says, why would anybody coaching in the NBA choose to coach college ball? NIL, recruiting, academic headaches. They don't want to deal with that. Maybe he does want to deal with that.
Well, the NBA has its challenges too. The season goes on and on and on. You're traveling like crazy.
The players have a ton of power.
Yeah, and these are all time-consuming jobs, but at least from the college perspective, you can be home more, at least be in the same city as your presumably wife and kids, which I believe he has. So I talked to Majerus about that once, because he was just viewed as a hot candidate in the NBA and in college, and he's telling me that the season compared to the NBA is so truncated. Kevin Young spoke that when they won a couple of Mondays ago. He said he told his wife, "Yeah, I got 10 games left." What? Because she's been with him in the NBA,
right?
And
you're not done in mid-March or late March,
and
depending on how good your team is.
This was early February when he said that. Early February, you still have all of February, all of March, depending on how far you go in the playoff. You have at least half of April. Probably all of April, because when he was coaching with the Suns, they were making the postseason. So there's trade-offs both ways for sure. And then you get to be more of a boss at the college level, because you do have to placate the NBA players. But now with the money, we have to think differently as far as college.
Larry says the only way any coach is going to succeed at the U is with total support from the athletic director and from the boosters. With NIL, they got to be all in to fix that basketball program up on the hill. And that's the conversation you're talking about.
Well, you think Harlan's sitting there saying, well, I don't really want to be all in. I want us to be mediocre so I can catch all sorts of grief.
said no AD ever. Hey, coaches, how about some mediocrity? I want to feel the heat.
So he knows all that.
But it's just the realistic.
Trying to go about getting it done.
Where you're going to get the money from.
Right, yeah. That's it. BYU comes out and all those entrepreneurs saying you're not going to outbid us.
It's a good thing tech took off, because otherwise it'd be up to the doctors and lawyers, and they don't have enough cash to get it done.
Not at that level. No. And, the entrepreneur stuff, if you can hit it and probably takes less time. With being a doctor, man, you go to school forever, it seems like. Talk to me when you're 40, when you finally got everything done. But there's, I don't know that medical people are going into exclusively to be rich. They don't have that kind of money, and Utah's got to find ways to get that kind of money. Have bake sales. Have the players out on Fourth South. I'll wash your car on the weekends, have kids holding the poster signs. Maybe that's a way. Get it to the grassroots level.
All right.
Sell U of U cookies. I saw a thing in Scottsdale last week. Mother and daughter going to set up a Girl Scout cookie booth. They can do it outside. The weather's warm there. And so they had a bunch of stuff in the car, and they bring it to the street in the booth to sell it. And while they were getting set up, they had some of the cookies still in the car. Car got stolen. You stole from the Girl Scouts.
Not good.
There's a place reserved in Hades for you.
Stealing the Scouts' car and the cookies.
Now, you better hope that they didn't know it. But they could have at least figured it out and put the Girl Scout cookies on the curb and then steal the car.
Leave the valuable stuff. Take the car.
So, yeah, and leave the cannoli. Take the gun.
Take the cannoli.
It's the other way around. They gave us a little fat guy who wanted the cannoli.
Take the cannoli. Leave the gun.
Yeah. So you're going to have to come up with creative ways. And whether it's Alex or John Wooden or whomever. That's part of the deal. And then you got to look at Alex. You got to be careful. Are you trying to recapture nostalgia?
Yes.
Okay, is that the way to go?
Well, you've tried to ignore the nostalgia and hire people from around the West and Midwest, and that hasn't worked. So, as Jeff Johnson said, try one of your own. But is there a nostalgia element to it? Absolutely.
You got to be careful about that, though.
Sure. They've been careful about it 4 times and not done it, and it hasn't worked. So I think they're going to be less careful about it this time.
I still think you have to be just as careful. That doesn't mean it's not right, but you have to be careful about it.
Just because it's nostalgia doesn't mean it's right or wrong.
Yeah, you look at St. John's, they brought in Chris Mullen, Patrick Ewing. It couldn't have gone worse. Georgetown sucked beyond belief.
Terribly.
Right. It's unfortunate for Ewing, but the reality was...
They never got anywhere near recapturing the glory they dreamed of capturing.
Yeah.
Never came anywhere near it.
And now they brought in this Cooley. Would he come from Providence, Rhode Island, one of those places? And they're way more competitive. I mean, they're not John Thompson competitive, but they're way more competitive, right? And is this his second year? He's just getting going. And so you got to be careful on that because coaching is a grind. But the thing about Alex wasn't a superstar player to the level of Chris Mullen. Right, original dream team.
Well, Alex is
he's a grinder.
Alex has done the grind now for 25 years.
Yeah.
And he's been an assistant in college. He's been an assistant in pros. He's been a head coach in the D League when it was the D League. Now it's the G League. But
I mean, they clamored for Ty Detmer, and that didn't work.
And there was some nostalgia there, to be sure.
Right. And
but also, he'd been coaching in high school and he hadn't coached in college.
I understand. The resume is far greater. There's no question about it. Absolutely. I'm not saying don't do it.
But the nostalgia can hook you sometimes. It doesn't always work.
Right. It's got to be more than that. Oh, just because we got one of the players who played in the Final Four, that's not good enough. That alone, and he can bring Andre in as an assistant or whatever he wants to do. And great, but that's on its own is not good enough. There's got to be plenty more around it in order for this program to get back to where it's been so many times.
So you're looking for more of Penny Hardaway?
Did you just type in once?
I was checking to see how many NCAAs he'd gone to. He's in his 6th year. He's been to 2 NCAAs. Yeah.
He's all right.
Won 1 game.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It was a lot of
they've had
ballyhoo when he got it.
Right,
but,
they've had Sweet 16 and Final Four teams. He hasn't recaptured that glory. But
well, yeah, with Calipari.
Yeah, they've been in the
and Larry Finch back in his 70s.
Back in the day.
You're going way back. Hardaway's been okay, but they don't play an elite conference, and I wonder what kind of money is available in Memphis. It's not exactly a huge metropolitan area. And let's call it like it is. You can look it up. Yep. Been to Memphis many times. Had to go to Memphis every time we would go over to Arkansas because it's right across the bridge where my wife's grandmother lived. So, and I had a good friend who lived in Memphis. I'm intimately familiar with that area. He's okay. But he was the chosen son coming back. And he was obviously even of a higher level. And I would love to see Alex do it. I have no reason to think he wouldn't succeed, but he's got to have the resources. It doesn't matter who the coach is. You can bring in Phil Jackson or whoever you thought. Obviously, he'd be too old, but you get the point I'm making. That is illustrious, but if he doesn't have the resources, you got to have Pitino-like money available to be able to make a quick turnaround. But I think it can be done. Why can't it be done? I'm blown away by anybody who says it can't be done. You're playing in a premier conference. If they can do it at Texas Tech, you could do it at the University of Utah. There's just no doubt in my mind. This program, give it 2-3 years, and maybe even less with the transfer portal, it can be back, and it can be back contending for an NCAA bid.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We'll talk about this with Jeff Judkins, former Ute player and assistant coach. He's going to join us at 9 o'clock right here on The Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
You know what's happened over the last month that's really important for the Jazz? Keontae's probably a full-time bench player for the rest of his career. He doesn't want that, I'm sure. He's been really good coming off the bench. And you can hide a lot of his deficiencies when he's going up against other second-unit players that are equally flawed. If you have a six-man who can score 30 and get everyone involved with some playmaking, he's really valuable. So you found the role for Keontae, and I suspect he's going to stay there for a while. And now what the nice thing is for the Jazz is they thought that was going to be Colin Sexton's role. Well, now you can trade Colin and get whatever you want for him. If you feel like Keontae at 21 years old is more valuable than Colin Sexton at 26 years old going into this summer with $18 million on his contract, because you control Keontae forever, and if he's a six-man, no one's going to pay him. Until you are putting them in the right positions to succeed, it's so hard to nail them down.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
The artist of the day is Johnny Cash. He was born on this day in 1932. It's brought to you by Live Nation. For all the live concerts and events in 2025, check out livenation.com.
My mother-in-law had a second marriage to literally the guy next door. And they were married for 25 plus years. And when they had a ceremony at a club, country club type atmosphere, and then so they walked back down the aisle, and Jim was a huge Johnny Cash fan, and as they walked back down the aisle, it wasn't a church, so it didn't seem irreverent. He had playing on the sound system, "I'm Going to Jackson," which now has become one of my favorite all-time tunes. And this guy, he was a man's man, served in the military, the whole spiel, and worked, loyal, just a great dude. And my mother-in-law died before him, and so when he had his service, we were trying to figure out ways to incorporate this song. At the end of his life, he was in a rest home, and the mind was there, but the body had really just started to slip. But the mind was there, and we would go to Phoenix, we would visit him literally every time. And so his body is decaying, it's clear he's dying, and I've got Johnny Cash tunes on my phone, and I play Jackson, and he perks up, starts singing as loud as he could. It was a cool moment that I'll never forget. And so I can't help but think of him every time I hear Johnny.
And you saw a picture of Johnny Cash this morning.
I guess that's why I saw it. I did not know. He does the band of the day thing. Right. I don't. Yeah, and he died at 71. He looked like he was 100. And June Carter Cash, his second wife, had died and 4 months earlier. And I think John had no interest in living without his wife. And so he passed 4 months later.
He was 71 going on 101 in that photo.
Yeah.
Hard living there.
Yeah.
Got fans weighing in on the future of Utah basketball, who the coach should be. There are a lot of people who want it to be Alex Jensen. There are people who aren't quite as committed to Alex. Kevin, sure. Why not? All right, Kevin. Not really committed to anything. But there are also people here. Sam says, please, yes, and thank you. Or Andre Miller. I also like Johnny Bryant, too. So we got a poll question up. Bryant, Burgess, Jensen, Miller. Who would you like? There's 4 former Utes, all coaching. We'll let you vote.
Yeah.
You think it is, Alex? As far as front runner, not done.
Through my research, I'm led to believe, and I'm not reporting this, so please don't go run it on social media. This is me talking.
But it seems like that's where the momentum is headed.
If he wants the job, yeah. Right.
But the devil is in the details, so it's not done yet.
There's a lot to be discussed.
Yeah.
Yes, you just don't say, oh, yeah, I'm in. That's not the way the world works now. What are going to be the resources available? That's what you don't think Kevin Young did that? And Kevin Young knew he was dealing from a position of strength. It didn't take Kevin Young long to figure out, I'm the guy they want. They're sending Tom and Santiago and 1 or 2 other administrators down to Phoenix. Yeah, they're coming to me. I'm not coming to them. So Young is like thinking, okay, what is available for me? What are we going to do? How much are we going to be in to win? That's the reality of it, man. Especially when you've got established yourself. If this thing in Dallas blows up and looks a little crazy here, it's not like he may be out of a job, but he's not going to be out of work. He's going to get a job someplace else.
You would think he's got too good a track record of developing players. Somebody, I mean, there's always top 10 rookies coming in the league, and they need to be developed.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to think Alex can develop this, especially with big guys.
Right.
He's got the rep there.
He does. Yeah, there's no question about it.
Not that he couldn't develop a perimeter player, but he's got the rep with big guys.
Majerus always talked about him being cerebral and all those fancy words, and he was. He understood the game very, very well. I mean, we all think very highly of Alex. There's no question about that. That's said and done. And so he's got to figure out what is best, and like Kevin Young did. And especially if you're dealing from a position of strength and you know that they want you, what are you going to have to allow me to succeed? And the world today, a large portion of that is cash. There's other stuff too. You look at BYU, my gosh, they got 14 people back there. The bench is 2 full rows practically.
So when you say cash, you don't just mean salary, and you don't just mean salary and NIL, it's also the staff.
Kevin Young added, he talked about this. Mm-hmm. He had some, he did some, what was it, some Cougar Club thing where he talked about Burgess, and we stuck it to the Utes too, and then they took it down.
Yeah, it was. He was speaking to the Cougar Club at a luncheon. He said, "Yeah, we stuck it to Utah by taking Burgess, and they took it offline.
They took it down, but I had seen it ahead of time.
Hundreds of people
and I don't care
saw
about the trash talk. That's whatever. But the important fact that I took from that is that he said they gave him 3 additional full-time positions. That's commitment. That's where it's at. He took Burgess up. Oh, he stuck it to the Utes. Ha, ha, ha. That's a little rivalry banner, blah, blah, blah. I doubt.
Red meat for the Cougar Club.
I doubt it was going to be Kyle Whittingham and Joe Glenn. I'm going to hold him accountable. And I didn't hear Craig Smith say that when they beat him in the Huntsman Center. That's just blah, blah, blah. But 3 times, blah, blah, blah.
It was.
It's more about they added That's just one example. They added 3 full-time positions.
Cash comes in many forms.
Yeah. And Kalani's talked about that, about it's not just myself, it's the other guys. They're able to keep Jay Hill because they're paying him 7 figures.
When Tom Hommel said unprecedented, it's not just about the head coach's salary.
Yeah.
What's the pool for the assistants? And
On
then
and
the
on.
staff beyond the assistants.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Analysts are what they call analysts now. They're basically whatever.
And they
role you want
blurred
to
that
use.
line because now they're letting the analysts coach on the field.
Right.
You're not limited
It's
to
all
the
staff
10
members.
coaches.
Gary
Right.
Anderson is coaching for BYU. That's a fact. And Gary Anderson's got years of experience and is helping the team win. You need all those guys, all those people, and if you have some women on the staff, so all those people, everybody. So what is it going to be? That stuff has to be hammered out.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Coming up at 8:30, Tim Lacombe, Jazz analyst for SCG Media, will join us. Jeff Judkins at 9 o'clock. It's a Win Tickets Wednesday. In the next hour, we'll give away a family 4-pack of tickets to the Salt Lake Off-Road Expo. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.